Well, this is a Friday morning. We've survived.
Oh,
No,
it's
it's
a
not
Monday
Monday
morning,
morning.
Jude.
Well, I was going to say we survived the weekend, but the weekend is on a Monday,
Good.
not on a Friday. Anyway, how
Yeah.
are you this morning, Pat? Good weather
I'm
there?
grand,
Your
Jude.
heart?
Uh, it's not bad, Jude. It's Jude. You know we're heading into winter. There's a
Oh
definite
God, don't you?
change.
Jeez, I
Uh,
don't like it. I don't
yeah.
like it. I don't like winters anymore.
No,
I,
who
I,
does?
I don't think I could stand Canada now. I think I might die if I had to go through a winter.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Canada's getting more severe winters. What do you spend 11, 12 years there?
No, about 10.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
long enough. Well, I was watching that guy Reese Jones doing his trip across Canada. Did you see him on the TV by any
uh,
chance?
no, I saw it the last time. I meant to watch. I saw it a wee bit last night, but we
Uh,
were watching something else. Yeah,
it was really a pile of horse dung, and more
uh,
about him than about Canada, really, and sort of
uh,
silly parts of it. But he is
uh,
emphasizing how nice the Canadians are. Well, not all
uh,
Canadians are nice, but most of them are very mannerly. They'll say
yeah,
please and thank you and stuff. Anyway, enough of that. Well, there's only one major topic. Well, there's more than one major topic,
yeah.
but the central topic, of course, is what's going on in Gaza and Israel's response to Hamas's attack. You feel that the reporting of this, Pat, hasn't been all that it might have been?
No, Jude, I think that the whole thing, like Jude, in any conflict, there's going to be a sort of divergence of opinion. But Grant Shapps, here, I'll start with this. Grant Shapps, who's the British Defence Secretary, had to go at the BBC the last day, saying their policy in regard to Hamas was verging on the disgraceful. In other words, he wants them to condemn the Palestinians and the Hamas right from the off.
Hmm.
So I presume what he wants is basically the BBC to fall in line with the Tory government's view of the conflict. So, in other words, they're going to reflect a totally one-sided pro-Israeli viewpoint. Dude, half the world doesn't agree with that. Now, I don't understand how the Israelis, well, maybe I could if I thought about it long enough. They have got Washington in their corner. They've got Westminster in their corner. They've got the EU seemingly in their corner. And yet, Jude, anybody that looks at the conflict dispassionately and looked at the facts would come to the conclusion that that is so far from the truth that it's not. The Palestinians are the victims here. Their land's been taken. They have been shoved into Gaza. 2.3 million people living in a place that's, by the way, I said County Louth, it's actually that's smaller than any shown. Any shown is a peninsula of Donegal. And,
God.
and, and Palestine, the Palestinians in Gaza are living in less than, like, Donegal's a big county, but the Palestinians, there's about, I think, 44,000 people. I could be wrong. 44,000 people living in Anishoan. There's
Hmm.
2.3 million living in Gaza, which is smaller than Anishoan. So, right, uh, there's been systematic discrimination against the Palestinians. Their rights have been eroded. And Jude, what I was listening a couple of weeks back, apparently there's a great trick that's pulled by the Israelis. They go to where Palestinians are living and say, for security reasons, we have to take over this land. They take it to a court and a judge rules in favor of the authorities, yes, for security reasons. And then 6 months later, an illegal settlement starts getting built there. And
Yeah.
all this is going on. And anyway, I'll just finish up. I'll wrap up. I was watching a wee bit yesterday. Mark Regev is the Israeli ambassador to Britain, and he came on, and Victoria Derbyshire was standing in for Laura Kuenssberg. It's the Laura Kuenssberg program. But anyway, Victoria Derbyshire said, does Israel abide by? I said, of course we do. We're not going to hit hospitals and so on. He was followed by the Palestinian ambassador. I wrote down his name, Hussam Sambalat, who said, he said, we've just listened to lies. He says, direct lies from Mark Rega. He says, yesterday, he says, Israeli bombs hit a hospital in Gaza. It's on the record. It's been condemned by the Christian Palestinian Anglican bishop and others. He says, you can check it out. And he
Hmm.
says, he just comes on and he says, you people don't even challenge him. He's allowed to. And of course, the other thing is, I'm going to wrap it up now. Every Palestinian comes on is asked to condemn, condemn, condemn. No one ever asked Israel, stealing land for years. Palestinians have you killed? You know how much I know what rights have Israelis got that Palestinians don't. You know, but then you know the administrative detention where you can put people in jail without any proof. You know these things. Sitting watching, and we're getting fed propaganda, and so many people who aren't engaged or who don't are
Mm.
not involved or don't want to even research it just accept what the Israelis are saying.
Well, maybe it's me, Pat, that I'm in social media. Maybe I see the things that are sent to me in terms of my thinking rather than opposed
Yeah.
to my thinking. But an awful lot of people online, it seems to me, are saying that really Palestine are the victims here.
Yeah.
There's a couple of points I'd make. One is I'm really get very irritated by this. It's the same thing. It's so like the Shinner thing. If you say you support Sinn Féin, oh, well, you must be an
Yeah.
IRA man. If you say that you support the people of Palestine, you say, oh, you believe Hamas can go and do what they want to do. Now, I think we should keep in mind, that was what Hamas did was pretty horrible, no matter where it sprang from. But the fact that you then go on to say that the Palestinians, far more Palestinians have died at the hands of the Israelis, doesn't mean that you're saying it's good that the Hamas went in there and butchered those people. The other thing is the way that, when you mentioned lies, this rumor, this claim that the Hamas beheaded babies. Now, that I watched Question Time on Thursday. Well, I watched it on Friday actually, but it was on Thursday night. Question Time, the BBC, and the Jewish editor of the Jewish Chronicle repeated this at least twice, I think. And the your woman Fiona Bruce never contradicted him. Nobody got contradicted him. So if you're going to tell a lie, or at least something for which you have no evidence, just shove it out there quickly. And then, people will come to accept it. Well, really, if anybody says there wasn't babies beheaded, they're clearly on the side of Hamas and they're covering up the crimes that they committed. The other thing I was thinking is, we now have this thing, any moment now, the Israeli troops will invade Gaza, right?
Yeah. So
what happened when the Russian troops invaded Ukraine? People said, oh, you can't have this. I mean, where will these people stop? We've got to resist them. And the Ukrainians, we'll stand by the Ukrainians forever. And weaponry and all sorts of stuff was rushed to the front for them. And refugees were taken in and so on. Who's saying the same thing for Gaza now? Nobody's saying, I thought this was Palestinian territory. Israelis can come in and take it. You put that in the context of the fact that I was looking at the history of this thing. I mean, the Jewish state was set up by a UN mandate. It was supposed to be Palestine split in half for Israel. The Israelis had a sort of a war of sorts with several of the Arab states, and they wound up with more than they started with. And then, of course, they took the West Bank and they pushed the
Palestinians into Gaza, and that's where enclave where they can control them.
Yeah. I just think nobody ever mentions that. Here's a state that's being invaded. I mean, is Gaza a state, or have I got that wrong?
Well, it doesn't officially recognize. No, it's one of these things. They're looking for recognition at UN, but it's been blocked, I think, by the Americans and on a couple of occasions.
So is it okay to invade places then where they haven't registered? They haven't.
No, but it's called an occupied. As far as I'm never quite sure about the political standing, but apparently it's described as an occupied territory.
What? Gaza?
Yeah.
Jeez. Occupied by Palestinians?
Under Israeli occupation. That's the official title.
Well, Israel was in Gaza and then they cleared off, and now they're coming back again.
But Jude, that's another thing. They keep claiming, look what happened. We were in Gaza. And Jude, they were getting, they couldn't handle Gaza. They made it out as if they were being good guys and left Gaza and all that. And look what happened. Jude, they left Gaza. They blockaded it. There's Gazans can't come in, can't come out. They can't fish their own waters. There's no airport. There's no train station. They have to go through apparently there was a woman had a heart attack, and she had to get 3 different animals and ambulances to go for about a mile and a half to a hospital. That's the sort of daily life. So, but the Israelis say, look, they throw this stuff. By the way, Jude, the Oslo Accords, and I'm not going down this road, said we agreed with Arafat and whoever it was back in the day. Was it Jimmy Carter? I can't remember. And they said they agreed a 2-state solution, and that the Palestinians signed up that. The Israelis just let it die on the vine. In fact, Netanyahu is on the record, and you can check us out. He says there will be no 2-state solution. So Netanyahu has actually said to the Americans there'll be no 2-state solution. Yet the Israelis are sort of saying the Palestinians are the bad guys because they want their own state, which, by the way, is totally legitimate.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's a bit ridiculous because the Palestinians have already seceded. Like there was Palestine, and then it was chopped in half by the UN. So the Palestinians had to just swallow and suck that up. The other thing I was wondering, Pat, was I see there's talk this morning about what would happen when the IDF invade. Would Hamas fight from street to street, or would they melt into the background? What's your own guess there?
I would say they sort of built in. I would think there could be they'll let the Israelis come in and then they'll start fighting. I think it'll be street to street. Jude, I honestly believe this is what's going to happen now. It's going to be bordering on genocide. I really genuinely believe it. Hussein Sambat, the Palestinian guy, was on yesterday, as I was saying earlier, on BBC. He said his sister owns a house in the south of Gaza. He says it's an ordinary house. He says at most there should be 10, 15 people he said the very most. He says, guess how many people are in my sister's house? He says 150. He says that's the best. He says they are sleeping standing up. They have no food. They have no water, no electricity, etc., etc., etc. And he says, he says they're taking rounds. The people who are less, or no people who are ill, or they are allowed 2 hours each in bed, and then they come out and somebody else. And he says that's how they're living. But Jude,
that's insane.
Isn't there a massive question? Because we mentioned this on Friday, but it's worth mentioning again. If you have the power to turn off the gas, the food, the water, the fuel, and everything to your enemy, can you be regarded as the victim or the good guy?
Well, those are obviously war crimes, but of course people are afraid. It's all about their own politics, you know. You have Joe Biden wants to get re-elected, so he's gung ho behind. Although I do think, to be fair to Biden and others, they have started with this position that they'll always have the back of the Israelis. But they're also now adding gradually. However, you know, that doesn't mean that Israel can do whatever it wants. I do see things asserting a certain balance now. Just if I come back for a minute to that thing about whether the Hamas would stand and whether it be street fighting, I don't think it will be. I mean, I think if the Hamas are at all smart, they won't engage in street fighting. You may.
Oh no!
The group that I'd think of them alongside, maybe it's fair, maybe it's not fair, is the IRA. There was never a question of the IRA fighting from street to street against the British Army. That deprives any.
No,
from their
I remember Martin McGuinness one time that very point you're after making. He said, "Pat, see this thing. People say, oh, you know, you're a terrorist and all the rest." And, you know, he says, what do you think? Should we fight a pitch battle, like a chivalry thing, like the 16th century? He says, they have 60 million people. He says, we have less than whatever. You know, what was in the North, 900,000 or 600,000 Catholics, whatever it was. So he says, we have to fight them on our terms, not in their terms. And I presume Hamas will do the same. They're not going to go up against 300,000 Israelis. But Jude, what I meant exactly what you were saying, I think they will fight them. You know, an Israelis will come around a house and the next thing will be a booby trap or something and stuff like that. You know, no, they're not going to fight them full on. I hope in hell.
Well, I would say they're given I don't know why they're hanging on so long on the borders. I mean, they said they're going in, and eventually they're going to have. If they're going to go in, they have to go in. So are they deliberately giving time to Hamas to set booby traps, to melt into the background, to do whatever preparation is necessary? Well, they're certainly
Well, they
giving them
said
that.
yesterday it was weather because there had been torrential rain. Now I don't know. It should right. They have they're going to get. They have massive tanks. They have air power. They have they're They're going to carpet bomb Gaza. There's no doubt about that. There's going to be nothing left when it's finished. So, Jude, what's the definition of that? Is that genocide? That's the first thing. Secondly, how come the Israelis can do this and sort of get applauded by the West? And if the Russians did that in Kiev, they'd be considered war crimes.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Exactly. Very, very similar scenes, you'd have to be told this is Gaza or, this is wherever it is, not Kiev, but other parts.
Can I bring you back up last night on, I saw it during the day, but I didn't see it till last night, the Week in Politics and RT. I can't remember one of the people, Matt Carty of Sinn Féin was on. And he made the point that Ursula von der Leyen's position, as he says, as far as he's concerned, it's untenable. That she has totally, he says, overstretched her authority in the sense that she says, when Israel is our friend and where friends are attacked, we stand with them. And she basically did not condemn at all the turning off the water of food, of all the rest of it. Jude, let me get it on the record. She certainly does not speak for me, and I know she does probably. Well, you speak for yourself, but she doesn't speak for a lot of others. So I'm wondering, give her the authority. I'm an Irish citizen. I'm an EU citizen. She certainly does not speak for me.
Well, one small point. What nationality is Ursula von der Leyen?
German. I know.
So she cannot afford, and I can understand that. She cannot afford to show any signs of hostility towards the Jewish state. So that's the answer to that. I don't think she's got. I don't think she detests the Palestinians. I don't think she's really warm towards the Israelis. But officially, of course, she's going to say, because this is the thing it haunts. It must continue to haunt the Germans. What they did to the Jews. So that's the explanation of that one. So much of this is politicians posturing. I mean, for example, we talked about this on Friday, I think, that Leo Varadkar has come out with a very sensible sort of statement. To me, he has grabbed the moral high ground before anybody else could get there. And he's sort of kicking anybody who's going to join him, where he said, that the shocking things were done by Hamas. However, Israel will lose a lot of its sympathy as time goes by if it tends to go on, bombing Gaza into the ground. Incidentally, I don't think they will flatten Gaza, not entirely. I mean, they will not. I don't know. Maybe I'm crediting them with too much, but I don't think they'll blow up hospitals, because we've seen shots now of babies lying in incubators. Panting and the little attachments to the chest and so on. That if those hospitals were hit and those people killed, or that those babies died because there's no electricity, I think that Israel's support, international support, would ebb away very quickly. Do you not think so yourself?
I think so, Jude. I think there are a lot of people on that seesaw type for Israel. They could change very quickly. As you said earlier on, everybody's sympathy was with them after the Hamas attack, and rightly so. But that can change very quickly, because I think that if you're looking at it from a moral perspective, the right is definitely not on the Israeli side. In fact, they have totally abused their superior firepower and the backing and support of the United States. They've just stolen land right around the place and have denied for years, for decades, the rights of Palestinians to have a homeland.
It reminds me a little bit of the IRA and the campaign against the British state here. I remember reading an article somewhere, and somebody was asking the question, why is it that in movies and so on, that it is the Republicans' IRA that tends to be presented as the good guys? and the Brits in movies and books that tend to be presented as the bad guys. And some Republicans said, well, it's quite simple. It's because there's fewer of them. They're the underdog. And we tend naturally to side with the underdog. And maybe that's the same thing here to some extent. You know, the IDF is such a well-disciplined, we're told, and brutal sort of organization. And the Palestinians are obviously just ordinary people who are suffering. I think that's part of it as well. We side with the underdog usually, except there's good reasons for not doing so. I just think we should stop talking about it and maybe prepare ourselves for what is coming. I think there's a fear that it'll soak in or seep into Lebanon and so on. And I wouldn't want that to happen at all, for no other reason than I have a nephew.
But before we leave this, maybe one point Jude, everyone seems to accept the Americans and the Israelis that this is a political thing. It's not a military. This needs a political solution. You know, Israelis can get in this time, but unless they kill all the Palestinians there and sort of wipe them off the face of the earth, it's going to come back in another 5 years, 10 years. You know, yet the problem will still be the same. And by the way, Jude, I think the Palestinians, the Arab people, are nearly starting now to outnumber the Jews in the area. So are they going? The Jewish people going, or the Israelis? Are they going to introduce laws, discriminatory laws, like they did in the Faceless Men did in place like Derry? Put 50,000 Catholics up in Craig Estate and give them one representative, and then put 10,000 Unionists and Protestants in another and give them two. Like, how are they going to manage all this?
You don't go along with any notion of conspiracy. Like, there are some people who would say, in fact, at least one in my own family, who said that there was a possibility that Israel had allowed that to happen. I mean, the kind of wall that they had built, the kind of barbed wire, the kind of surveillance, the kind of everything, and these guys just walk in. That has never been quite explained. It really has never been quite explained.
By the way, they were supposed to be warned by the Egyptians too. But you know, okay, you can make a conspiracy theory out of anything, but you know, it would have to be a very, very cynical calculation. Let them kill, 1,300 or 1,400 people.
Yeah, that's true. Very cynical indeed, and they have highlighted how awful it was. But nobody, if you say that, you then have got to explain how it was that the Hamas was able to make their way in such numbers through this unbelievably carefully guarded border.
Yeah.
No, that's never discussed. Nobody discusses that on TV or on the
No, they don't. And by the way, you can't rule it out. Like, there are people I know, very, very sensible people, who still say that 9/11 was an Israeli job. And they say, look, because the obvious question you always ask, cui bono, who benefits?
Yeah, exactly.
And it was Israel who benefited most.
Well, it looks like that just as America really blundered in the wake of 9/11, we sort of forgive them almost because of 9/11. But I mean, they went in and destroyed Afghanistan and destroyed Iraq, which was really nothing to do with the thing. But I don't know why they did it. Was it to show that, are they like the police arresting somebody so they'll show that they're active and at least they've got, somebody, I've let him go now because he wasn't killed anyway. Is that the kind of thing that they're showing themselves to have muscle?
But Jude, where's the pressure going to be on the Americans and the Israelis to actually do something that, here's a Palestinian state and here are the guidelines, for it. So far, they've talked about it and danced around it, but the Israelis have blocked it every which way. And isn't it about time? If they're really serious, there should be some sort of real international attempt to sort that out once and for all. Like the same way, like the peace process in Northern Ireland.
Well, maybe if part of the peace process was the fact that the way the state was set up here wasn't good. It was, in fact, discriminatory at every turn. Why is it that in discussion we never have this comparison of the number of casualties? The number of casualties in Palestinian terms is always about a factor of 10. compared to
Yeah.
that of Israelis. Well, now,
Well, that's deliberate policy,
that's
Jude.
not to say that it's okay to kill Israelis, but it's just a
Yeah.
pretty stark figure. Why
But
is it never
that,
discussed?
by the way, that is actually, they have a policy. I don't think it's ever that for every one of us we're going to kill 10 of them. That is actually one of their policies. I remember reading that some time ago. It's basically it's deterrent. They're saying, and Netanyahu says, but when they attack us, we will hit them back so hard that we will scare them so much. Like it's disproportionate deliberately.
It's worked well so far, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's worked great.
And I mean, if they
Look at
go
last
into, if
Saturday.
they do what they say they're going to do in terms of Gaza, that they're going to go in and they will root out, they will kill everybody essentially, if necessary, in order to get Hamas. If they go through with that, I tell you, they have sown some seeds for the future. The trouble is, if things spread, Lebanon and Jordan and Syria and so on. Yeah,
and then there's no doubt about it. If they do what they're saying, watch out for attacks in London. Random attacks. Watch out, and in Paris and places like that. It's a cert.
Yeah. You see, we mightn't be. It's easier to talk about it when you feel reasonably safe, but if you think that when you walk down the street, you could be meeting the consequences of it, it's a slightly different matter. Well, we go on to anything else? Will we go on to another?
Let's move closer to home. And I still don't know. I was watching the DUP conference was on Saturday. We Sir Jeff was on yesterday morning on the Week in Politics or the Sunday Politics.
Yeah.
And he was interviewed by Andy McClafferty of the BBC.
Yeah.
And Jude, I'm still no wiser about exactly what the DUP want. I don't know, and I don't know how they're going to get it. And are they waiting for someone from Heaton Harris? Or are they waiting for Sir Keir Starmer to get in? Will they return to Starmer this side of Christmas? Will they wait until after the election? Or will there be direct rule? No, Jude, the reason I'm throwing it out, I haven't a clue. I don't know. I really don't understand now where this place is going.
Well, I'd have to know what. I mean, Jeffrey's whole thing was that the link with Britain was weakened.
Yeah.
Now, the big thing I hear this morning is that he's going to secure maybe £1 billion.
Yeah.
So, is he saying, well, we'll just forget about this thing about our insecurity. Just give us the money. Is he saying that? I mean, would they settle?
Right. If I picked it up yesterday, basically, and I presume this is doable. They're saying the goods coming internally from, say, London to Lisburn or Larne. There should be no checks now. So they want rid of the green lane, and you can understand that. That's sort of reasonable. If they're not going anywhere else other than staying in the UK, right? Fair enough. They said that and I think he indicated that they would accept the red lane. That if it's going outside Northern Ireland and to the Republic, right? Okay, that those goods coming in will have to be checked. Now, I presume blind eye could be turned some way to letting the green lane disappear. Right? That's only the other one is he wants.
Couldn't agree.
But hold on, you can come back at me. Anyway, the next thing he says is I want that he's looking for some legislation to copper fasten Northern Ireland's position within the Union. Now, there's no sign of that yet, by the way, but I presume that's doable as well, that they'll come out with some sort of anodyne sort of thing that says there can be no change. Now, the bottom line of it all that is, Jude, it's already in the Good Friday Agreement that Northern Ireland's position can't be removed without the consent of its people. Yeah. So I don't see but maybe that'll be to use your term, the fig leaf that'll get them over that. So maybe those two things are doable, and then the £1 billion, and then Sir Geoffrey goes back into Starmer. That's my theory. Go on, you.
Well, this thing about the green lane being abolished, it's very similar to customs. You're coming off a plane or whatever, there's always a green lane and there's a red section. Yeah. And practically everybody takes a green lane. But the thought is always on my mind, God, will they stop me? Because what is the point in having a green lane except they are able to occasionally check people that look a bit fishy? And I think that's absolutely fine. Is Jeffrey saying that the EU should just simply take the word off anybody in Britain who sends stuff over here and says, oh, yeah, it's just for here? But in fact, it might be going south. That won't work. That will not work. If there isn't a chance, I don't think, of them abolishing the green lane. Now, they may put some form of words on it, but if they do really abolish the green lane, they're crazy. There will be occasional checks. They'll keep it at an absolute minimum, I'm sure, but they wouldn't have a green lane for nothing. And if they do, they're damned fools, because that's saying virtually any goods can come in and we'll not bother with them.
Yeah, no, but I'm not. I think there probably some they can come up with some formula that I know that goods staying will be marked for UK only, and that system will be put in, and maybe the EU will say, right, that's acceptable. I'm not sure, Jude. The EU say that
well, that's what they have now, isn't it?
Renegotiation.
Isn't that what they have now? These goods are only for the UK.
Yeah, I think that's it. But Jude, what I'm thinking is they're going to find some way to bend it. That's my opinion. I don't know whether it's going to happen. I take your point that it's a fair one. That if the EU agree to this, then it becomes nearly like a smuggler's charter.
Yeah, I think they'll have to be. Of course, you see, for people to stamp goods for the UK only, somebody will have to be checking that at that point in Britain. You can't just go around stamping everything. So there must be somebody in the EU who's looking over the shoulder of these guys who are stamping this stuff and saying it's only for the UK. Because otherwise, stamp anything you bloody well wanted and find ways of getting it through. Hey, okay, right. What about, Pat? What about we're talking about tragedies. This is a serious tragedy. The rugby game. Did you watch the rugby game?
Yeah. I did. I did. I watched it, and I kept turning it over because it was after when they went 13-0 down, I turned it over. I said, "Geez," I was so disappointed, and I was so, here we go again, Ireland. And when it comes to a big occasion, we can always beat these guys when it's a nothing competition. But then suddenly, And by the way, I'm not saying Ireland choked here, because I think New Zealand the All Blacks were brilliant. I really do. And I think Joe Schmidt copped on a lot. He knew where the Irish weaknesses were, and he had the team playing the way, because they choked Ireland every which way. The line out and in the scrums, everything. Usually an open play, Ireland. When Ireland get going, they're nearly impossible to stop. They didn't get going. It's like the South Africans years ago. Remember John Olumo? When Lomo was playing, everybody's, and remember, 6'5", 19 stone, could run at 100 meters and under something like 10.5 seconds. The day the New Zealand All Blacks were playing South Africa, everybody says, Lomo is going to get running and they'll run right. He didn't. The South Africans put a guy on him just to make sure he couldn't even get the ball near him. I presume Joe Schmidt worked out a plan to beat Ireland, and I was very disappointing, Jude.
Yeah, well, I didn't watch the game. I didn't watch it until half time, and at half time I discovered that Ireland had been behind and they were within 1 point. And the commentators were talking very positively about it. So I says, I'll stay up later than I usually do, and I'll watch it. So I stayed up and watched, and Ireland were doing well. And the next minute, the New Zealand got a try. At that point, I said, "Forget it, I'm gone."
I was sitting watching. I was sitting watching. The last couple of minutes, Ireland. I thought, Jesus, if they get a try here, this is going to be, and the guy got over the line, and they didn't get a touchdown. And then, the last about 3 minutes, they just going forward.
Yeah,
but the Israeli defense, I was about to say, the New Zealand defense, anyway, Freudian slip there. But let's move on to that. I just wanted to run someone by. I read yesterday, there's this guy called Tony Cruz. He's German.
Yeah.
And he plays for Real Madrid. And he's 33. And you're right. Here's the thing. Manchester, he's a great player. Zinedine Zidane said he's one of the best players he's ever seen. But anyway, he's 33. Manchester City, Cruz contract with Real Madrid is up at the end of this season. And Manchester City's Pep Guardiola apparently is willing to pay 20 million for a 33-year-old. But on top of that, he's willing to pay him 250,000 to 300,000 a week. So I was working out, if they only get one season out of him, it's going to cost a minimum of 32 million. If they get 2 seasons out of him, it's going to cost a minimum of 44 million, if I'm right. Dude, what do you think of that sort of money swirling around, awash with cash? Is it becoming sort of obscene?
Well, you could say that anybody who's got loads of money is the more money than they need or can spend. You could argue that that's wrong. But I think these guys give us something back. If Tony Cruz is as good as we're told he is, if he's worth that money, it must be because of what he can do in the football field. So let's see it. And if he's performing well, and if Man City's performing well, and if they win, say, the Champions League this year again, a huge amount of money is going to flow into the coffers of whoever owns Man City. So that's the name of the game. It's a question of what's the market going to stand and how good are these guys in terms of play on the field. And I personally, for one, would not begrudge Tony Cruz whatever money he can get, because as you say, he's 32 or 33. What other profession is there where you would be almost certainly looking for your pension at the age of 38, 40 at the very most?
Yeah.
So I don't I hope he's as good as they say he is.
Yeah, but I know I was thinking, like at that level, I presume the very most, like if he's 33 now, the end of the season he'll be nearly 34. If he can perform for 2 seasons, he'll be 36. Dude, I can't see anybody performing in midfield at 36 years of age. At that stage, the legs are starting to go and whatever.
Well, that's
That
true.
could
Yes,
be wrong.
yes.
Yeah.
But you
So,
be sure.
but no, it was just the whole idea. Dude, any ordinary club like the Manchester City are owned by the this Arab consortium, aren't they? You know, money's not a problem. You know, like it's the same as Newcastle. Now they look at a player and just say, right, much is it? And you know, what is it? They were willing to offer what do you call the young Mbappe, who plays for Paris Saint-Germain or something. They were willing to offer 200 million for him. 200 million, you know, and like just like that. And they're going to pay something like $1 million a week after tax. No, he's going to earn 52 million minimum a year.
Well, good luck to him. If he can find that on the market, if I was in his shoes, would I go for it? I certainly would. I gather that they booed, the England supporters booed Jordan Henderson when he was substituted, I think. Not that they just didn't like him because he had opted to play in Saudi Arabia or somewhere, whatever. I just think this is ridiculous. If these guys are going to share people with money, what kind of a idiot would it be a person who would say, "Oh no, don't give me that money"?
You know, the guy was manager of Manchester City, Mancini. He was manager of Italy, and they won the European Championship. I was wondering where he disappeared. Apparently, he's away to Saudi Arabia or something on a contract to someone like 30 million a year.
It makes sense.
He's probably getting paid. He's probably getting 2 million a year, which wasn't bad. But he's on something like 25, 30 million a year. So, like he just left Italy. Don't you love such loyalty to your home country? Oh, but here's cash. Oh, I'm away.
Well, I read an article. I read an article the other day where they said that the whole fabric of football in England was, being broken. That there was a time, and I can sort of sympathise with this. It's like the GAA that it's got a link with the place where it was devised. Very often, these stadiums are originally set like the